Dr. Woody. I'm here with Will Dean, founder and CEO of Tough Mudder. So, Will, good to have you here.
Great to be here. Thanks ever so much.
So tell me a little bit about what Tough Mudder is.
So Tough Mudder, let's start with what Tough Mudder is not, first of all.
Oh, okay.
What Tough Mudder is not is a race. It's a challenge. You do it with your friends. It's about teamwork and camaraderie. It's a 12-mile military-style obstacle course with about 20 obstacles spread out over that 12 miles, designed to test you physically, mentally, and as a team.
And so what is it that inspired you to launch this here in the States?
So about 6 years ago, I did a triathlon, and this was not a competitive event. There was no prize money, and it wasn't like I was at the front anyway. And the zipper jammed on my wetsuit, and I turned to the guy next to me, and I said, "Hey, can you just give this a quick pull?" And he said, "Sorry, I'm kind of in a rush." And then the second guy said the same thing. And the third guy, he helped me. But what I realized is, wow, this is an incredibly solitary pursuit. A lot of endurance events. It's very much about the individual. And one of the things I saw with a marathon in particular is when you do a marathon, what do people ask you? What time did you do it in? And for a lot of people, that's not really the metric of success. And what I wanted to do was build an event that was all about teamwork, camaraderie, having fun, absolutely testing yourself physically and mentally, but at the end of it, feeling like you've done it as part of a team and it not being about you versus the clock.
So then what is it about you personally and your personal experience that kind of gave you this drive and desire to facilitate teamwork and to kind of get that out there into the world through Tough Mudder?
I think I played a lot of sport growing up in the UK, and one of the things that's emphasised a lot in the UK, certainly in Britain, is it's not just about the winning; it's being part of a team, it's taking part in something that's bigger than yourself. And I very much wanted to try and find an event that did that, and I was looking around for something to train towards, and I just didn't see something out there that, for me, really resonated.
That played to those values.
Exactly, and I thought, I'm probably not the only person that thinks this way. I think I've probably got friends, and there are others out there that like the idea of something that's about all-round fitness, but isn't about just racing all the time, because too much of life is one big rat race, and why can't exercise be fun?
And so then how did it go from you being an idea guy and an entrepreneur to taking this great fun thing and then turning it into a business? What has the transition like that been?
And I really started thinking, well, wouldn't it be fun if there was an event out there that did this? And then I started looking a little bit at the mass endurance event, and what I realized is actually companies like Ironman, they're for-profit entities, which I hadn't even appreciated prior to that. And I was an MBA at the time, up at a Harvard Business School. I entered the business plan competition. All my professors told me it was a terrible idea and I needed to get a job at McKinsey. But I said, I really think that I can test some of my really core assumptions for not all that much money. I can build a website, I can spend some marketing dollars on digital advertising, and I'll see if I can get some people to it. As it happened, I got 5,000 people to my first ever event, and at that point I realized onto something, and I didn't really have to look back after that.
So what is it about you that gave you the confidence to say, I don't care about all these no's I'm hearing, and these professors telling me no, I can actually do it?
One of the things I think, people who say that they don't have fear when they're starting a company or it isn't scary, I candidly don't believe them. I think starting a business is a pretty intimidating thing to do, and in all likelihood it's not going to succeed. We all know the statistics around that. And I think, for me, one of the things I looked at and said, well, in 10 years' time, if I try this thing and it hasn't worked out and I have to do something else afterwards, given as I was in my late 20s at the time, actually, am I going to be that much worse off? And the answer to that is actually no. So the second you start saying, well, what do I really have to be scared of if I fail here? Will some people laugh at me? Some people say, I told you so, probably. Is that something that should stop me doing what I want to do with my life? And I looked at all of the options after business school, and I wasn't just excited about this as an entrepreneurial venture, but it was also something that I passionately believed was something, as cliched as it may sound, would make the world a better place. It would get people healthy, it would get people to work as teams, it would get people to switch off their BlackBerry and get out with their friends for a few hours, and I found that very motivating.
So now, what are some of the challenges you've had of being that executive and having to work through people? Like you said, you love team, and that's a core value, and it's important to you facilitating that. How have you been able to do that? What have been some of those challenges as you've grown your team?
I think the key to scale is company culture. Company culture in general, is just how people behave when you're not looking. When you're walking around, people tend to be real saints. They tend to do exactly what you want when you're looking. The trouble is, we're putting on events in 53 fields all around the world. Live events tend to rely on a lot of young people to execute them. And so you have to be confident you've got people who are actually going to behave the way you want them to in those tough situations, when you may have to deal with an injury on a course or when you're dealing with a storm coming through. And so it's about recruiting the right people. And one of the things my co-founder and I always said was we would never hire anyone that we wouldn't have dinner with. And it's something we've always been able to hold true to. And I think really strong cultures, not only are they about getting the right people in and creating the right behavioral norms, but it's also making sure the organization itself, when you get someone that doesn't fit into that organization, rejects that individual. And I think we've done a very good job of building a culture where people take a lot of personal responsibility. And I think in the live event space, that's very, very important. But it's certainly a challenge to build and grow and maintain that culture.
And so then what advice would you have for any of those budding new entrepreneurs that you've been running into here at the EY conference, as far as advice for how to get to where you've gotten?
Sure. So I think the most important thing you can ever say about entrepreneurship is the importance of resilience. And if you look at some really successful entrepreneurs, they're not always the smartest, the most dynamic, the most charismatic of people. But what they do have is the ability to quickly pick themselves up and dust themselves back down. And whatever venture you're starting, it can feel like the specific challenge you're going through, no one else has been through before.
Right.
But the reality is, anyone who ever tried to build anything went through very similar challenges. And yes, they may not have felt exactly the same. We had to deal with permitting issues in rural parts of Georgia.
Sure.
Other people have to deal with tech issues and product delays. But actually, it's the same kind of problem. And what defines you is not how you deal with the success when things are going well, but how you pick yourself up and keep dusting yourself back down. Because in the first few years, I know it is one thing after another. And the energy and the resilience you need to get through that is hard. But if you can muster that, actually, your likelihood of success is really pretty high, in my opinion.
Well, Will, thank you for taking the time to sit down, and I definitely want to try it out.
You should come do it.
As a runner, I'm very excited about the idea, so I promise I'll take a stab.
Of course. Great to see you there.
Thanks so much.
Cheers. Thank you.
Yeah.